Delayed, by the way, today, I'm noticing.
Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. My name is Pawel. We are on episode 13 of season 7. Evan, how you doing?
Well, I'm having audio problems. How's that?
Oh, good. No, we can hear you clearly, so that's good.
Okay. Well, then we're doing okay. I feel like I'm lagging behind here. I was going to jump off and jump back in. Doing good, man. It's been a long week, but I'm looking forward to tonight's show.
That's right. So we're going to jump right to it because we've got a busy show tonight. We've got Hart Levine of Puckpedia coming up tonight.
Guest headliner, brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show.
All right. Welcome, Hart. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule. We know that you have a lot on your plate, and we're going to get into it right away. But you've been on the show before, so we appreciate you coming back. But we wanted to kind of, for first-time listeners who are dipping into kind of the salary role and getting into it, and of course with Cap Friendly being gone and you stepping in, walk us through kind of what Puckpedia brings to the table for every fan of the game, and what people can do with your program, with your website.
Yeah, well, Puckpedia is the one-stop shop for hockey fans. So a hockey fan should come here basically every day. We have all the salary cap information, player contracts, places where you can search and filter and sort about player information. Basically, we feel like, to be a fan and argue with your buddies about what the team should do, you need to have all the tools that the GM has. And so on the site, you can look up all that information, but we also have interactive tools like our Puck GM, where you can go on there, make trades, signings, call guys up and down, play with the line combinations, and you can make your roster moves. We also have things like pick value calculators, buyout calculators. So basically, a lot of ways for you to waste time during the day and pretend that you're your team's GM.
100%. And I would say, before Evan gets to his next question, I have spent a lot of my time, and I won't say where or who I work for, using your program, using your website. But go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, no. That I was going to say, like you said, they can find a one-stop shop. Absolutely love it. One of the pieces that I like is your agent board, to see which agents, how much salary cap that they're managing in the process. So, well, hey, speaking of salary cap, so Hart, we like you to take this convoluted understanding that we have, and it's all messed up just around the Panthers, their cap injuries. We know they're the defending champs. We know that obviously we knew Chuck was going to be injured going into the season, but then Barkov. Now, we have some reports, guys saying that, listen, guys that have played hockey said, hey, he likely could be back before a month before the end of the season. They haven't decided that he's gone for the year, so he's still sitting there. The cap for the playoffs is different, but our understanding is, and what we're being told is, it's a little different this year for how much they can take from LTIR to use at that trade deadline. Maybe walk the fans through to understand what's the Florida Panthers situation, and what can they or can they not do?
Yeah, so with the new collective bargaining agreement, there's some changes to LTIR. The biggest one is that the benefit that a team receives, they used to be able to exceed the cap potentially by up to the injured player's cap hit. And now that's only the case if the player is out for the whole season and the playoffs. And they have to declare that. There's a status we kind of coined it season-ending LTIR. Once they put a guy on that status, then he cannot play in the playoffs no matter what. So, but if the player is potentially going to return, the maximum benefit that they get in LTIR is now limited to, it's the last year's average salary, which for this year is $3.82 million. So they have Tkachuk and Barkov on just like regular LTIR right now. Each of them allow them to exceed the cap by $3.82 million. So right now we have them, they only have just $900,000 of cap space. So even to activate Tkachuk, they're going to have to clear the difference between the 3.8 million they'll lose when he's activated, and that 900,000. So they'll have to clear about 2.9 million or so. They could do that by sending guys down. Maybe a guy like Gadjevic or Schwint might go on LTIR, but they'll be pretty tight once they activate Kachuk. So if the big decision for them is with Barkov. So Barkov right now, he's just on a regular LTIR. They're only getting the benefit of 3.8 million. But if they decide, he's not going to make it back for the regular season and the playoffs, they could convert him to the season-ending LTIR, and all of a sudden they go from getting 3.8 million to his full cap hit of 10 million. So that's about a $6 million cap space increase. So there's really no reason for them to make that decision right now. But as we get closer to the deadline and they're trying to assess if they're going to make some moves or not, that's when they'll have to make that call and decide, are we going to basically take him out for the playoffs and get all this extra cap space, or no, leave ourselves the opportunity for him to come back? And in that case, they're pretty tight to the cap.
Okay, so
Awesome.
just a quick question, and just as a follow-up to that, that season-ending LTIR, who does decide on that? Do you guys know at Puckpedia, or is that the discrepancy? Does the doctor have to sign off to say that?
Oh, yeah. So to go from regular LTIR, the doctor has to, to be on regular LTIR, the doctor has to say the player is expected to miss 10 games and 24 days. For the player to go to season-ending LTIR, the doctor has to sign that this player is not going to be healthy and ready until the end of the playoffs. Or I guess they can't say, they're not going to say like June. I guess maybe, and this is all new, so we'll have to see. But potentially, if the doctor says he's not going to be back till sometime after the regular season, that's probably good enough to potentially qualify. And then the team will decide, do we give him that designation or not? And like I said, you can flip a guy from regular LTIR to season-ending LTIR, but once you call a guy on season-ending LTIR, designate him that, you cannot flip him back to regular LTIR. So it's a season-ending decision when they do that. So,
Awesome.
we've seen like St. Louis did that with Torrey Krug. San Jose did it with Carey Price, for example. Those guys aren't coming back, so it wasn't a big decision. The one we'll be watching is, what Florida does with Barkov, and if they do that to gain the extra cap space or not.
Fair enough. And I mean, I think it also coincides with the idea of gambling right now. And, if players are making bets, they want to know, like, how long a player's out. What is that concern, right? And I think the biggest culprit right now that people are having an issue is Toronto, because they just kind of give an undisclosed timeline. Or when they say day to day, it's most likely week to week, right? Lost Trucker who's tuning in, she wanted to ask, she said her biggest complaint about Puckpedia is that since the pretend to be a GM or agent came on board, the social media has erupted with false claims of trades and info. Is there a way to curb this? And then I would add to this, is AI in any way impacting positively or negatively your workload with how you're running Puckpedia?
I guess I'm not following the question. I mean, maybe they're talking about like people post trades that they make on PuckGM, and if people are posting a PuckGM trade, like it clearly shows PuckGM, it shows like who made it. If there's an official trade, it comes from our account and it shows like the official trade. It looks much different. And if you go on the site, there's our trades page, which are real trades. If you want to see what our users have done, that's in PuckGM, and that's a whole different sort of like area of the site. So I just watched to see. I definitely see people posting trades that they made on PuckGM using our tool, but I've never really seen any confusion. Like, are we saying this is a real trade, or is that just a user created trade?
Yeah, and
Well, in all fairness, the Lost Trucker, she's lost, so.
That's fair. Now, speaking of going from one dynasty of the Florida Panthers to a previous one with the Chicago Blackhawks, they're kind of in a rebuild mode. They're having a really good season so far this year. Connor Bedard is lighting it up, making a case for going to Team Canada's Olympic roster. But they're pretty comfortable in terms of their cap salary. And so, I would wondering, is heading into trade deadline, if they want to make some moves, as they not have any salary bonuses that could affect them, do they consider it, or do they have a lot of space? What kind of targets should they be eyeing, or their fans should look for, including Kyle Davison, kind of exploring, because they have a lot of potential right now. A lot of these young and up-and-coming teams, which we'll get to San Jose in a bit. But thoughts on like what Chicago can do? Can they be a buyer instead of a seller?
Chicago has the most cap space in the entire NHL, so they can do whatever they want. Though right now, without any moves, they'd finish with 15 million of space, which is a lot. But the way that cap space builds up and accrues over the season, as of right now, with that space, they could fit 20 million of annual cap hit. by the time they get to the deadline, if they didn't make any moves, they could fit almost 70 million of annual cap space. So obviously you couldn't possibly trade for that much of cap hit. So basically Chicago has as close as you can get to unlimited cap space as possible. And they have a lot of assets. I'm looking up. They have 2 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, a third, a fourth, and then 2 sevenths for the season. And then the following season, they have an extra second, and they're missing a fifth. So they have, they're probably not going to be moving prospects, but they have lots of cap space, and they have, kind of their full complement of picks plus some extras. So, we'll have to see where they are in the mix. I don't think they're going to want to give major assets for as like a rental or anything where they are in the rebuild. But yeah, we could see if they're in the playoff spot closer to the deadline. Like they certainly have some extra second, third round picks they could fire off to add some players if they feel like that's where they are in their, in their cycle. And certainly, for a young team getting some playoff games, it can only help. Look at Montreal last year. Having those players get those games, it's only going to be a benefit to their careers.
Awesome. Wow. And before Evan asks his next question, I just want to say, were you also shocked when you were putting in Connor McDavid's contract into Puck? Yeah, where you're like, wait, what? Is that really the number?
Yeah, when we saw the reports of like this camp, like who were all these reporters' accounts hacked? It didn't seem right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of going from Connor Bedard to Connor McDavid, another new phenom in the league, talking about Macklin Celebrini. So why don't we end this question? And we definitely appreciate you jumping on quickly here tonight. Now, the Sharks. We know that they've been absorbing the whole talk was they were setting themselves up so that they could at least hit the cap floor with all these other contracts. And again, some people aren't familiar with the salary cap. So guys, you can go over to Puckpedia and go to puckpedia.com and you can be able to get a lot of that information, all of that information that you're looking. One-stop shop, as Hart has just mentioned to you guys here. So with their deadline potential, we know I believe that because of a lot of the contracts they've taken on, is it any different than Chicago? Because right now, I frankly think that Macklin Celebrini has more talent playing with him this year and around him. But other than they could use some work on the back end. What are we seeing their cap space should they still be playing this well come close to deadline?
Yeah, they're an interesting case because they started like by midsummer they had a lot of cap space, but they traded for a lot of injured players, and they didn't really get like major assets. Like if we look through their trades, like they got let's see here. So for Ryan Ellis, they got a 6th round pick and a couple of players, and for Carey Price they got a 5th round pick. So they took on a lot of contracts and they didn't really get much in terms of assets. And so they're actually over the cap and they're using LTIR, which is surprising considering, you think of them being a team with lots of cap space. Now they do have Carey Price on season ending LTIR. So because of that, they have 6 million of cap space left in LTIR with him. And they haven't even put Ellis on LTIR. So if they wanted to, they could flip Ellis to season-ending LTIR and gain another 6 million. So they could have 12 million of space they could add in LTIR. And so it's not the same as Chicago. And because they're an LTIR team, space doesn't build up and accrue like it would for an under-the-cap team like Chicago. So, let's say they put Ellis on LTIR, giving them 12 million. It would be the same today or tomorrow or at the deadline. It doesn't build up. But yeah, they still have 12 million potentially. Looking at their cap or their pick inventory, they have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, no third, and 2 fourths. And then the following year, they actually are missing a third, a 5th, and a 7th. So they don't strike me as a team that was going to be necessarily adding. Like I think they're still maybe a year away. And again, maybe they pick up an asset for taking on a bad contract or something because they have some cap space to bring it in, or maybe there's a team that just needs to shed a player. And isn't really looking for anything in return other than just like taking them, and they can do a deal like that. But I'd be surprised if they're really giving like hard assets, especially considering they don't have a lot. They actually don't have that many picks in future years compared to a team like Chicago.
Yeah, I think one of the things that that fans are actually thinking is because when you're seeing both these teams, because I mean, frankly, I think all of us can say we thought they both could be a lottery pick. I mean, and they still may be, because if you start looking at how many actual wins versus losses with ties, which are officially losses, but they have those points, as we call them, the Bettman point. I mean, essentially, they're not maybe as good as folks may actually think they are, but they were kind of looking at that, and we've got a lot of those questions, so that's why we're excited that you could come on and kind of answer some of that. So essentially what we're saying is Chicago's got lots of room if they wanted to make a move to kind of build around, but San Jose, while they have lots of room, not near the kind of room that Chicago has.
Yeah, Chicago basically has unlimited room, more space than you could do anything with, and they have some assets too. Whereas San Jose, they have some room, yeah, not nearly as much. They are in LTIR, and they don't have as many assets. The other thing that's interesting about San Jose is because they're now close to the cap, and they have a lot of these players that have potential bonuses. Depending on how if some of these big stars, these young guys with entry level deals hit their performance bonuses, they could actually end up with a cap charge for next year, a bonus overage by finishing the season over the cap with bonuses that those extra bonuses then get charged the following year. So again, it's very interesting how they took those contracts on. They didn't really get much in way of assets, and now they might have a potential cap charge for next year depending on what happens with the bonuses. So it's they made some really interesting moves with asset management, but the Price and Else ones are definitely interesting to follow.
No, very true. Lost Trucker says, great to hear you, Mr. Levine. And I agree. I think you make us all a little bit smarter. I'm going to say Evan's not that smart, but for myself, I think I'm just a smidge better just because of the fact that I haven't been able to use Puckpedia. I have one final question I'd like to ask you, and then we'll wrap it up unless Evan has anything. But I wanted to know from your perspective, if you've had any seen what cap management strategies have distinguished some of the better top offices, front offices in the NHL? Are there some, I guess, organizations that are a little bit better at it, regardless of resources that they have, like the original six? Are there some like Carolina who have been very good at managing their cap, given their team and the success they've had on the ice?
Yeah, I mean, I think every team has some contracts that they end up not liking. The difference or the trick is like not to have too many of those and not to have any like big, long, catastrophic ones. I think betting on younger players that are kind of growing is the way to go. You look at Carolina; they gave a big contract early to Seth Jarvis. They just did with Jackson Blake, Stankoven. Those are the kind of players I think it makes a lot of sense to go long, and maybe at the time it seems a little high, but you're betting on the talent. And if it doesn't work out, they're young, and teams are going to want to give them a second chance to take a look at them. Teams are always going to think that they're going to still like take a step forward. And if worse comes to worse, if you have to buy out a contract, if they're under 26, it's only at 1/3. So it's really not that big a deal. And so you already looked though, like Jarvis looks like a steal, and we'll see what happens with those other young guys. But I think, and you mentioned Chicago, like they signed Frank Nazar. He played less than a season, and they signed him to a big long contract. And that's the kind of swing I think teams should be making, because it's either going to be a huge home run and he's going to be a steal, or if it doesn't work out, it's not going to be that costly. You could trade him, or you could potentially buy him out if you had to. So I think the teams that are making those bets on young players, it usually works out. I think where teams get themselves in trouble is like big dollars and big term to older players. Now, if you're talking about a little bit different when you're talking about guys that are like now going to be like in their late 30s and have some injury history, because they can always ride it out on LTIR Island. Like we just talked about those two guys that San Jose acquired, and it seems like those contracts can always get moved at some point. So I'm not necessarily, it's hard to criticize teams that do that, but I'm talking about guys that are maybe like 29, 30, and they're getting like a 7 or 8 year deal. And, by 33, they're already not living up to it. And now you got like many years of them actually being healthy and playing, but just not living up to those deals. Those are the ones that are absolute killers. So, I mean, we've seen teams go about things in different ways, but I think the key is betting big on younger guys and what they're going to do, and not trying to limit like the big albatrosses. Again, like you can overpay a guy, but if it's on a shorter term, it's not going to kill you. You'll work your way out of it. I'd say that's kind of that's what I would see around the league in terms of what's working.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Hart. We appreciate you taking the time. We don't want to hold it up too much longer because we know you got to jump on your Learjet and go find the next association and merger with Puckpedia.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
guys,
right. I wish that was the case.
One of the teams, or you could just do like Cap Friendly and just sell the whole thing early on, right?
No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, no. Man, so hey, it's great to have you on. We definitely do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. And I know we were scheduled a couple weeks ago, and you're great just to find a way to make it work to get back. So appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
Cheers, man.
Take care. Bye.
Guest headliner, brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hart, for coming on the show. We appreciate your insight, and go check out Puckpedia. It is quite the phenom. But we've got quite a bit to get through, Evan, because it's been a busy week in the world of hockey. There is lots to kind of explore. So we're going to jump in because we've got some information by the numbers.
Puckpedia, the ultimate source for your NHL salary cap information, player contracts, team cap hits, transaction news, and injury news.
By the numbers.
Alrighty, so we've got some news happening around the league, so we're going to get into it right away. So one of the things that has been kind of announced as of today is that Tyler Seguin is going to be out after suffering a torn ACL. Most likely he's missing the rest of the season. It didn't look pretty. It was a game versus the New York Rangers. Now, of course, Dallas is steamrolling right now. The Central is a juggernaut, and it looks like they're going to miss him. They are playing tonight versus the Devils, but they're going to need to bolster up that depth if they want to go far, because he's going to be a big loss. He's got one more year on his contract after this year. He is getting older. He did just celebrate playing 100 NHL games. And Evan,
Wow.
I remember the debate.
1,000
versus Tyler. 1,000 games. Taylor versus Tyler. Who goes first?
Oh, yeah.
Well, It looked like Edmonton thought they got the winger that they wanted, but he ended up having the last laugh when he won with Boston in 2011. Now, he was a rookie, of course, but man, oh man, that experience helped him go a long way, right? And Taylor Hall.
But hey, Taylor Hall won the most valuable player in the league though one year. And
he did when he played for New Jersey.
And Tyler Seguin had to be traded again before he even got to that place. So I think sometimes it just tells you what team you end on. But
it just goes to show you that draft was so long ago, and yet here we are still discussing both players who are playing. Of course, the injury is not good, but I think Tyler's going to get back to it and be ready for next season.
And can I just say that it was in the old Northlands Coliseum, and I was in the Northlands Coliseum for the live draft. There was about 10,000 people sitting in that arena that day to watch who would be drafted first overall. So it was a pretty special day. They didn't continue that with all the other drafts that they had, but that was one of them. But you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to see him hit 1,000 games. And it's really sad that injuries have really taken him out of the game, because the guy is still an incredible player. But I mean, what he can do when he's not injured, even at this stage, is amazing.
Yeah. And Lost Record says the two Atlantic losers battle last night. Toronto and Florida. But the other, because there's been a lot of injuries, and of course, shortened season, Olympics, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. Kyle Palmieri, also of the Islanders, tore his ACL and is going to miss 6 to 8 months now. I mean, he's been rolling. He's a great depth guy. And of course, Islanders always need scoring. They are rolling. Schaefer's looking good as my pick, although I think Jesper Wallstedt is making a case for the Calder. But he's going to be out. But he did earn an assist after stripping the puck from a Philly player. And so that was really cool to see that he got an assist doing that play like that, because, he's probably in so much agony and pain. And yet here he is still making a play, which led to a goal. So good for him. And of course, another injury, a big one, Adam Fox of the Rangers, long-term injury with upper body. Doesn't look good, but it sounds like he'll be ready for the Olympics. He's going to be one of the guys that's going to be selected for that. So really, I think it's going to be pretty cool that he's there. Now, before we jump over to some NHL news, because I know we have some stuff happening as well with some other teams, I did want to revert back to our episode where we had Jamie Basco of the Philadelphia Flyers beat writer come on the show. He talked about Quinn Hughes being traded, Evan, and we were like, whoa, what a hot take. It doesn't look that hot anymore. It looks like it's more of a reality. Your thoughts on Quinn Hughes from the body language and with, of course, the Vancouver Canucks looking like they're open for sale, according to that letter that went out to all the teams by Jim Rutherford.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we've been talking about the last couple of weeks just on body language, the way he's not responding, not working with the media. It's just almost like he's given up. And this is really sad for the Vancouver Canucks because they'll probably never, ever have another defenseman as good as Quinn Hughes. This was their chance. I'm not going to. Because this team has just been decimated, and they had let's just go back to when they had everybody and Brock Besner and Bo Horvat and all those guys there together. They were struggling on their cap
awkwardly.
And then
yeah.
And so this becomes really hard. And you're right. We were laughing at what Jamie said. We're like, okay, well, that's good. It's, and now I'm starting to hear some insiders even talk about, well, this could be a trade. This person could be traded in a trade.
Detroit.
They could be on the out going to a place like Vancouver. Yeah, you hear Detroit. See, I'm actually hearing more on Philadelphia, actually.
Okay, I'm hearing Detroit. Now, I understand.
What are you hearing about Detroit? Like
that they're very
rumor of like picks, prospects.
Yeah, for both picks and prospects because they have it, right? So they're kind of in the middle of the pack. They're trying to make the playoffs. They have what they can, and Steve Yzerman wants to take a big swing, and who doesn't want a Quinn Hughes on the back end, right? I mean, the guy is just unreal, right? Yeah. Most likely gonna be one of the assistant captains for Team USA. I mean, the guy just unreal. And I know he wants to play with his brothers, don't get me wrong. And New Jersey can make it work. But that also hamstrings New Jersey in terms of what they can do, both teams, right? So if you can trade Quinn Hughes for any other team in the East, most likely it sounds like you'll go to the East. That's going to be a big haul. So Vancouver better make off like bandits while his value is high because he's on a really cheap contract right now. But you have to also guarantee that other team is able to sign or trade and sign him, right? So when they acquire him, they're able to extend him long term. And speaking of electric goalies that we just talked about, Jesper Wallstedt, what a phenomenal month. Going 6-0-0 November with a 1.14 goals against average and a 967 save percentage, along with 4 shutouts. The guy is insane. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're losing you a little bit, Evan. I think we're losing you a little bit. Sorry.
I mean, if you guys watch, you don't have to like the Edmonton Oilers. Watch the Oilers Wild game. If you guys have a chance to see the replay, if you have your streaming app, go back, take a game, watch all the shots that are on this guy. He sees through traffic. He's got lateral, like everything you want, like was advertised. And if you followed him last year in the AHL, you weren't going, oh, this guy is going to be a superstar. You're questioning. You need me to jump off and come back in?
You're good now. It was a little lag for a moment. I apologize. Oh, he stepped away. So, yeah, I mean, he's been killing it. I mean, he's been playing unreal hockey. And I think what goes unnoticed is that Philip Gustafsson is also playing well, but he's being overshadowed, of course, by Jesper Wallstedt. Just you could see the smart plays that he does when he's on the ice. He is moving laterally very well. He knows and is anticipating where the play is happening, which allows him to read it better. Now, it does help to play in front of a strong defensive system of John Hines for the Minnesota Wild, and he's got some good talent back there. But I really believe that he has an opportunity to duel up. Ross Circuser must be Rev's Apple products messing him up. Could be. The other news that we have is Carter Hart making his debut in the NHL again after 2 years of being away from the league since the 2018 trial. They do win it in overtime, beating the Chicago Blackhawks 4-3, making 27 saves. Phenomenal game. The team huddled around him. There was a positive reception for him. Let's see if he can continue that trajectory. I know not everyone is going to be a fan of him returning to the league, but he has been reinstated, and it looks like he will be playing. So he is back now. And in other news that we have, let me see here where my nose. It looks like Edmonton still is not doing as well as they thought. So does this mean that they can turn it around, or will they miss the playoffs for the first time in several years? It looks like they're just having a hard time getting going. Now, they played a better game, but you have the wall of Minnesota St. Paul last night with Jesper Wallstedt, but will it be enough? Hard to say. We'll see how it goes. We're now going to look back, and it is by the numbers.
Puckpedia, the ultimate source for your NHL salary cap information, player contracts, team cap hits, transaction news, and injury news.
By the numbers.
Alrighty, and we are just gonna get into Around the Rink. I just gotta get Evan set up, so give us just a moment here, everyone. All right, so we are going to get into Around the Rink. All right, Around the Rink. We've got some great stuff going on around the ring, and I think Evan's going to join us in just a second. But I wanted to talk about in the CHL. Hey, Evan, welcome back. In the CHL or AHL, Cal Foote has signed an AHL contract with the Chicago Wolves. Now, he is ineligible for an NHL call-up, but he's still going to be playing for a little bit. He is a former NHLer. His dad is a coach. He's had some success, but he was also one of the players in that trial. So there's a little bit of debate of what's going to happen, but it looks like he's going to get another chance to potentially play pro hockey. Any thoughts, Evan, on Cal Foote returning for the Chicago Wolves?
Yeah, I he was already on that pace. He, with so much spread out in the league, I think that this guy definitely has the ability to come in, even if he's a depth guy. And by the way, I do apologize, everyone. This is what happens when you don't want to spend a lot of money on your hotel, and the Wi-Fi works good till 10 minutes before your show. And when we started it, I did ask that question because it was lagging and it sounded like my audio was good, but not everything else. And I knew it was going to change. So all good to go, man. But anyway, I think Cal Foote, I think it's going to be a step. I predict by the end of the season, he definitely will be up playing in the NHL again.
Yeah. And Lost Trucker said he's doing better than his dad. Well, yeah, I mean, Adam Foote had a really good career, right? Like generally, but
I think what she's saying though, is he's doing better than how his dad is coaching.
Oh yeah, I like Adam Foote for what Vancouver brings. I think he's brought the right amount of ingenuity, skill, and talent. I mean, you can only do so much when you're decimated and you have barely any people playing. It's tough, right? Just ask the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just ask some of the other teams that are dealing with so many injuries. And again, It's going to get crazier, Evan, because the Olympics are coming up. And you're going to send players. Now we're going to get into what's been happening with the Milano Cortina Olympics. Do you want to kind of allude to that right now? What's been going on?
Yeah, sure. Why don't we do that? Just a sec here. I'm just going to pull up all my information because everything got kind of moved out. Definitely this has been a little bit of a frustrating one.
Well, while you're doing that, I just wanted to note that in the KHL, it continues to be a busy season with the playoff races heating up. And teams like Sibir, Novosibirsk, I apologize if I mispronounced that, and the AK Bars Kazan are still competing to try to get in. They've had a bit of a hard time getting in, but as of course, there are some other teams that are just steamrolling, and it'll be interesting to see if there's any players that come out of the KHL this year that potentially can make a impact in the NHL, because every year there's one that kind of stands out. And I believe it was Shlipachov from the New York Islanders who signed that big contract after I know Philly thought that they were going to get him. He's had a good start so far, not as impactful as people probably wanted him, but good enough that, he's been able to transition his game and have a good time.
I don't have it handy in front of me. Wasn't it Karmenov also came into the Islanders?
I believe so, yes.
There was 2 Russians, I think, that they came in on. So, but yeah. No, I think there's always a Russian every year. There is some potential guys that we could pull up for you guys if you guys have interest.
Was it not Maxim Shabanov? That's who it was, right?
Shabanov, not Karmanov. Yes, Shabanov. Yeah. You are right.
Yeah, so far this season in 15 games, 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points. So not exactly lighting it up. But I mean, when he played for Chelyabinsk Tractor last year in 65 games, 23 goals and 44 assists and 67 points in total. And the year prior, 25 goals and 25 assists, 50 points. So he can produce. He can be a top guy. But again, the NHL is such a different league. It's such a different beast that you have to really learn. But talk about the Olympics, because there's a lot of rumblings happening right now around that.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure how much you guys have been following around the Olympic ice arena. So one of the things that we've kind of learned is, and so I tried to get as much into this in the last couple of days, but I just heard that the roof is not even completed. This is what I just heard yesterday. And I was like, are you serious? It's not completed. So can I just let you guys know that as far as everything, I've gone in, tried to follow up for some reliable sources, and I'm told that it's been completed. There is no issues on that. Now, there is 2 arenas. Essentially, they have the arenas. So just kind of pulling them up here. So the 16,000 arena, so that's the Santa Giulia arena, or I'm slaughtering the names, but don't worry about it. And then they also have the Row arena, which is only a 5,800 seat arena, but they're limited. They can only do the men's preliminaries there between February 7th to 14th, because February 5th, 6th for the women's, the February 5th and 6th, it's already booked, so the women can't even play over there earlier. Now, later on with the quarterfinals, they already got events going on that ice for that arena. So with ice skating and different things. So right now, they were supposed to have men's preliminaries between the 7th and the 14th of February. But what we're understanding now, when it comes to the arena and the roof, it's all done. Don't worry about that. That's been completed. The steel framework, everything's been done. They put in the seating. The issue is the actual rink itself. And so this is what the issue is. Now, an NHL standard, because they were told when they set this inside, the organizers, they said that needs to be NHL ready, NHL standard. And this was the agreement to return to the Olympics with the NHL and the NHLPA. But now, I'm not sure if you guys, some of you actually know this, the IIHF, or as we call the Olympic size, is the length of a rink is 196.85. Okay, that's the length. It's 200 feet in the NHL. So an Olympic is not as long, but the difference is it is 98.4 feet wide, and an NHL is only 85 feet wide. But this arena, because they ran into all these issues and sponsorship deals and some of the money, so the funding, do I have my numbers here? I just pulled it up a little bit earlier. I think we're talking at double the dollars have actually been spent on this one. I can't find them really handy. Oh yeah, so it started off at 180 million and it's hit 270 million dollars. So for them, that's a lot of money over there. Now coming around on it, the arena in Milano will not be as long as an NHL ice also. It'll be 196.85, same as the Olympic double IHF. However, the width will be only 0.3 feet wider between both sides as an NHL arena. So it's 0.3 of a foot wider, and it's going to be 3.5 feet shorter. So this is going to change, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later here when we want to go into around some NHL, like around NHL players going for Team Canada. Who are they going to select? Because guys, get ready. This will, and even though they might get suspended because of AA IHF, this could, if this arena is ready to go and they're playing in this shorter arena, this could impact because it's not as long of an ice. And I know you guys say that might only be 3.5 feet. Well, it's already a small rink for NHL players to play on. Now you start putting the best on best, they're at the other end in no time flat. And I think that you're looking at your teams loading up on a few more checking forwards than they normally would.
100%. And I think there's a lot of, I want to say, information and reporting out there. And so it's hard to kind of gauge what's going on. But I think recently, I think as of today or yesterday, Bill Daly, the assistant deputy GM, noted that if it's not ready to go, they are not sending their best. So there's clearly some frustration on the NHL level. And guys, be honest, or let's be honest, the NHL is not responsible for this. They're just sending the players. This is on the International World Committee, the Olympic Committee, to prepare this. And they've had several years to prepare. The fact that you can't prepare a rink so far, it should be ready to go, Evan, to be tested out. The fact that it's not even there yet. Now, I know people compare it to other rinks and his previous Olympics and what happened there. It's not the same. You got to be able to prepare. You're sending a lot of these players, top-notch players that are valuable to their franchises. You're sending Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Adam Fox, Austin Matthews. If there's an injury, who knows what could happen for those franchises, right? There's a lot of money on the line. So people have to really be cautious here. Now, I also don't want to lose the opportunity to see the best on best in the world, which would include a Crosby and McDavid and McKinnon versus a Matthews and Eichel and a Kachuk, right? Like, we want to see that. And that doesn't take away from also some of the best Finnish and Swedish players among some other countries, including Team Germany. So I really believe that they got to figure this out. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a problem. And I think it's becoming a bigger story than necessary because, Evan, we're on December 3rd already. The Olympics are in February. This isn't like you can build overnight. You got to be able to be quick about this. So we'll be reporting on it as it comes along. But this is definitely a story to keep an eye on because unless it's puck drop, nothing is guaranteed. So and I know a lot of fans will be disappointed. Go ahead.
So this is dark. Now I'm going to go totally speculation here, okay, folks? We've been told there is no plan B, but I cannot see them if the NHL, and they have the right because the conditions were not met. They've already changed their whole season around. Players were excited about it. You have this might be the last time Crosby could ever play with someone like McDavid and McKinnon and potentially a Celebrini. I mean, like the excitement of those many stars. Not since the 87 Canada Cup have we saw this kind of opportunity. So could they just take all those games, move them right out to what is called the Avici Arena, home of the NHL's temporary Global Series games in the in the Swedish Hockey League's Gardens. That would be the next closest probably arena that they could use, most feasible NHL size. It is not what they want, but it's all televised. So they could send someone over there last minute. I think something like that would actually happen. And I mean, guys, let's be honest. It is over 1,200 miles away, okay? But it is only a 2.5-hour flight. So that might be what you're dealing with, and they can seat in between 8 and 13,000, and I'm sure that they would find a way to make it work. So if you're really worried and you actually think that, like in your situation, you're like thinking, no, I don't know if they're going to play. Well, I think that might be what we have to look at.
Fair enough. I'm glad you're out of the dark now that you know and you've come to the light. But
Yeah,
So
I was just looking. So that's kind of weird because I'm using my phone, so I can't access. So I was trying to look for the next closest location that we could possibly have. So again, this is 100% speculation. No one has ever reported on this possibility. But I don't think they will cancel. They will find something like that.
we'll see how it goes. And finally, in the PWHL so far, some players to keep an eye on because the season's been going pretty well. Taylor Gerard of the New York Sirens scored a hat trick in our first PWHL game. And it was in a single period, which is pretty impressive. Claire Thompson of the Vancouver Golden Eyes, the newer team, that the expansion team this season, she scored and assisted in a back-to-back game, so she's extended her point streak into the new season. And of course, the goaltender for Boston Fleet, Ariel Frankel. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. She's been putting up a .980 save percentage and .50 GAA, so she must be taking the same coaching advice from Jesper Wallsted's goalie coach, because she is really lighting it up. These are some of the star players right now to keep an eye on the PWHL. If you're watching, there's some great players there. Any final thoughts before we move away from around the rink?
No, I'm good. We did it.
Awesome. And that's around the rink. So we did chat about Carter Hart. I just wanted to get your thoughts on his debut in the league before we jump over to the NHL players that should be on Team Canada. But your quick thoughts on Mr. Carter Hart returning back to the NHL.
Well, impressive, very impressive, considering that 2 years away from the game. I know that he's got a few games under his belt with the Henderson Silver Knights, which is basically Las Vegas. It's just like being Vancouver and Abbotsford. I know Zill might question that because she knows both areas very well. She might say it's closer. So go ahead, Zill, and you can quote a different location and proximity. It's probably more like actually Burnaby and Vancouver, and or something like that. But anyway, I actually think that watching the game, and I watched the whole game, watched it all the way through, watched his movements. I'm telling you, he's got being behind a different team. He played for years under a bad Philadelphia Flyers team, and his record doesn't give him justice. His save percentage doesn't give him justice. Lots of high quality shots against, good like A quality shots that should not be being given. And after a certain point, goalies lose confidence if there's nobody there to help pick up rebounds or anything around it. So great. I'm excited for him. Hey, there was a massive ovation for Carter Hart for his first game. So congratulations to him.
Awesome. And so let's get into, because we talked about it last week, about some players that could be left off of Team Canada and who potentially could make it. Now, we talked about potentially Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, who we indicated with Cart Levine about kind of the breakout seasons they're having. But I know you kind of wanted to go through some of the players, and both Team USA and Team Canada's who we can cover tonight, because we know who's kind of been announced for the initial team. 6 players for Canada: Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, Makar, Braden Point, and Sam Reinhart. No questions there. All having really good seasons. Even Sam Reinhart, he hasn't lit it up. He's still excellent.
Braden Point's not. And that's what bothers me about this. They booked Braden Point in. And so I, as a Canadian, I'm not happy that Braden Point is automatically a given into the Olympics just because of what he did in his past. Frankly, this is not the year I would bring him in.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And as for
it is broke. It is broke. The guy's not performing.
Well, neither is Bennington, and he wasn't last year, and yet he's their number one goalie. But I wouldn't bring Bennington this year. Bennington was okay last year, but he's way worse this year. I would not bring Bennington. Yeah, the team in front of him is not any good, and it was the same last year. But Doug Armstrong's the GM, so of course he's going to bring in his guy.
Yeah, right? But this is not about who your favorites are. This is about winning a world gold championship. Wow. What do you mean? Oh, come on, man!
You bring the guy in that has the veteran experience. He's won a cup.
What do you mean? So he can have a terrible year and we don't bring him in? Well, then you better bring Zach Hyman in.
Had a
You got to
bad
bring
year
Zach Hyman in because now he's not injured, and the guy is an incredible player, and he's going to be playing, and he's a
Who are
veteran.
you
He
pulling out
knows
for
how to
Zach
dig a
Hyman to
check.
go in? Who
What?
are your guys that are honorable mentions? Because the one that I would make a case for, although it'd be very, very hard as to why, because he's having a great year, is John Tavares. Now he is older.
Yeah.
He is he's struggling a bit in terms of his age, but he's performing right now, Evan. He's played top center minutes because Austin Matthews been in and out of the lineup. That would be one player. You know, you look at some of your defensemen, you think of who you had at Four Nations. Do you bring in Evan Bouchard? And a lot of people will say no because of his defensive liabilities.
Yeah.
You know, who do you bring in a Mackenzie Weegar, right? Who isn't having a great season with Calgary, but you know, he was off the list. Do you bring in Thomas Harley? Most likely he's probably back, right? Who's your seventh?
Travis Sanheim.
Travis
He doesn't come
Sanheim
back.
would be my one that I would consider changing up. That was at Four Nations. But your thoughts?
Yeah. So defense, you're not going to find defense messing around too much, and they want more defensive guys. And long as they can move the puck up
front quickly.
What's that?
Who can move the puck up quickly to the forwards because you know those guys can score 100%.
And they can't trust in these short tournaments. They can't trust guys who could give up the puck on the defensive end. So that's generally always been straight across for the defense. Offense is a little bit different. So I don't got Hagel this year. I don't have Cirelli there this year. Frankly, I don't think Reinhart deserves to be there. I frankly do not believe Point should be there. I don't even think you can make a point that even Marner, he's having a good year, but does he really belong there? Maybe I would take out Marner and I put Tavares in. I definitely am putting Tom Wilson in though. He's having a great year, and he's a big, tough guy.
It's different. Like, so you're throwing him out there to throw. I'd rather have Celebrini there than Tom Wilson.
Tom Wilson is a scorer. Have you not watched him?
I have watched him. I have watched him, and I think he most likely will get there. But he also brings a different type of game, which I think they would prefer. But then, do you bring in somebody like Mark Scheifele? Because I think he was omitted for Four Nations, and yet he can come on. Or Nick Suzuki, who's having a really good year, although, of course, the Canadians are struggling right now. Like, that's a big one.
Suzuki doesn't have the defensive awareness that he's going to need in a bottom six, though. So that becomes a little bit. But I think they need to change out that top six. I do not believe you bring Brad Marchand back. I don't believe that would be
I think they bring Marchand back. I think they do.
I think they will, but I'm saying you're asking who do you take out? And that's my point. I think that I'm going to move out quite a few players. I do not like bringing players because they're veteran, and you say, well, you can trust them before.
No, it's not veteran.
Binnington got in last year because he wasn't playing well.
No, because you won at Four Nations just less than a year ago, and that's why you had success.
But they're not. They didn't finish the year good, and they didn't start the year good, and you don't bring them in when they're not making plays.
They didn't. A lot of them didn't have success either way, but they won Four Nations. You go with a winning formula. That's what I'm implying.
Not a year later. It is one calendar year. Do you follow? No, I know you do. I'm just being facetious. But do you follow hockey? Because when you watch hockey, 1 year later, where did the San Jose Sharks become so good all of a sudden? Where did Celebrini become like a superstar? When did the Bedard all of a sudden switch it up? When did you can start going through teams right now. Edmonton looks like they're not even going to make the playoffs. So maybe Connor McDavid should stay home because he doesn't seem to be a very good leader too. I mean, there's a lot of things back and forth, but the truth is, can you rely on them? And just because they were good last year, a year ago, doesn't mean they're good right now.
100%. So who would be your goaltender for Team Canada?
Logan Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I do not run back Aiden Hill.
Okay. And what about Matthew Schaefer? Do you give him an opportunity? I know they've asked him to be on the short list.
Yeah.
Do you allow him to come on or no?
So this really bewilders me that they invite him to a short list when they already were saying that they're going down on their list. And yet some of the ins, like just in behind the scenes of some folks in the NHL, they're saying they don't think that he's going to be selected just to give him experience because he has a lot of years ahead of him in Olympics. So they'd rather give it to someone they know. If you watch Matthew Schaefer, now I know you guys, many of you might watch him already, but I watch his whole game. He's not ready for prime time, the best of the best yet, one-on-one. If you put him on special teams on the power play, yeah, but we already know Cale McCarr's going there. And
Yeah,
probably right
and it's
beside him,
Jonathan
Devin
Taves
Taves.
or
Yeah.
Devon Taves. Yeah,
Yeah, and can I just say this? I get why they're putting Devontae's in, but I don't send Devontae's as a top six guy. But I do put him because of his chemistry. That's
Yeah.
why. Do you put a Hyman with McDavid? Now I wouldn't, just because I don't feel this year he started. He came back
No.
from his injury, and he is not the same player in his
Yes.
gelling with him, like say Kunitz was back in the day with Crosby or something like that, right?
Yeah.
With it, but or Colby Armstrong or something like
Well,
that. But so I don't know how though. Like I would take Bedard and Celebrini, and folks, I would put those. So I would have McDavid, Celebrini, Bedard, McKinnon, and Crosby in my top five, and I'd add another guy in there. Of one of those guys in there, like Shifley or John Tavares or something, and I put everybody else. I drop them down to the bottom six. That's what I would do.
It'll be interesting to see. So you guys can let us know your thoughts from Team Canada and your predictions of who will play forward, defense, and who's good, and goalie, and who will be left out, because there's a lot of questions in net, and that's the biggest.
And that's the biggest one every year, isn't it? It seems like any
well, in the last few years, I think prior to a couple of years back when you had Carey Price and Roberto Luongo, I think you had a little.
Oh, you're going way back now, though. Yeah, Luongo. But so let's do next week. We'll do Team USA. We'll talk.
Well, no, I wanted to get into Team USA right now.
We didn't plan for that. We were just going to do Team Canada because we wanted to cover the top 10 scoring. That was something that we had talked about. We were just covering Team Canada. I wasn't even ready for Team USA, so I'm not going to be able to answer your questions tonight.
All right. Well,
that was you kind of coming up with that on the spot.
Well, I can put you on the spot. You just don't have to answer. You can plead the fifth. But the confirmed for Team USA so far is Austin Matthews, who's been in and out with his, unknown injury, the one that he went to Germany last season to take care. Jack Eichel, who's having a good season. Brady Tkachuk, who I believe is now back and playing. Matthew Tkachuk, who's still out. Quinn Hughes, who we talked about, and Charlie McAvoy, who was out for a little bit. I don't know if he's back yet because I know he took that puck to the face a couple weekends ago. So there's a lot of players potentially that could be there, including players like Adam Fox, who we talk about, Zach Werenski, who's having a pretty solid season. But we'll get into next week. But again, Hellebuck was their number one starter. And what does that look like? He's out right now. And will he be ready? Most likely. But how good will his knee be after that knee surgery, right? So,
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you said why would you mess with a good thing? They had a good thing and they were a top team last year, so they should just go with Connor.
No, but they lost. Regardless. U.S. lost, and
they lost by a single goal in overtime. Who cares?
And who did they pull out of their lineup? Who did they pull out of their lineup for the last game? A fellow player of his, Kyle Connor. Can you imagine if you had Kyle Connor there right now? So it'll be interesting. Lost Trucker says, no, USA Olympics. We're going to get into Team USA and maybe Team Finland or Team Sweden because there's quite a few teams there. But that's pretty much it. Let's wrap it up here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Any final thoughts you want to share or chat about? Because I got one that I think people aren't discussing enough right now about.
No, I'm good across. I just want you guys to remember name JP Hurlburt. We'll next week talk it back into Rev's Top 15, and we're going to talk about a couple amazing things with a player who couldn't even make a USHL team and has been like doing incredible. He left the OHL, go to the USHL, came back and is lighting it up. And JP Hurlburt, who we don't even think will make Team Canada. And by the way, by this time next week, we're going to know the World Juniors. And who's on that junior team is going to be announced. It should be by the 8th here.
That should be good. One thing I wanted to chat about before we wrap up is no one's talking about Jason Robertson and his contract extension that's coming up with the Dallas Stars. He is having an unreal year with 17 goals and 19 assists in 28 games. So he's over a point per game, Evan. He's only got 2 penalty minutes, so he's playing very well. He's coming out at the end of his 4-year, $31 million contract that he signed at $7.75 million.
Yeah.
People aren't talking enough about the fact that this guy's going to get paid. Potentially could make Team USA. That's how good he is. And really, your thoughts on what his contract is going to be, given that Antonin just signed that 12 plus million.
My plan tonight was to go over the top 10 scorers, and he was in it already. So I'm going to divert and go with what you just said. You proved why we need to talk about him, and I'd like to cover those top 10 guys and what they're doing, because we know like 2 or 3 of them are being talked about, but guys like Robertson are not. And I think he deserves his kudos. Just listen, Dallas will find a way to sign this guy. They are not letting him go.
Yeah. So did you want to kind of preview your top 10 scores, or leave that for next week?
We'll leave that for next week, and we might slightly change it. We'll see what the scores are by next week. So guys, get ready next week. We'll do top 10. We'll cover more. Maybe let's do this. Let's cover Sweden, Finland, and Team USA for the Olympics, and we'll go with we'll have a Revs top 15 next week in a hockey history.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, again for tuning in. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are on X/Twitter at Revedev or hockey_2. We are on Instagram, on YouTube. Give us a follow and subscribe. Leave us a like. It really helps us, and it helps the channel grow. We want to thank our sponsors for being a part of it. Puckpedia with Hart Levine coming on tonight. We appreciate it. Northern Michigan Warhounds. We love seeing the highlights from their game on our Facebook feed. Penny Billionaires for their song Invincible. Pro Hockey Group, Flow Hockey, where you can watch all the hockey, and JR Web Design. If you need a website, go to JR Web Design. We've got articles galore consistently on our website at twoguysinhockey.com. We love having you guys visit there. We appreciate it. Make sure to reach out whenever you get a chance. We love hearing from you, your thoughts, our feedback. We love having our own rants online with you, but we always keep it respectful. And on that note, we are going to wrap up another great edition of Season 7, Episode 13 of Two Guys in Hockey Talk. Always, Evan.
In the meantime, folks, and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. Have a good night.
Cheers.